Connect. Now, this week, we got the first taste of what a crackdown on fake news may look like. A blogger who had posted fake news about the Kumawood actor Kojo Nkansa, a.k.a. Lewin, was tracked down and arrested by the police. The blogger had posted a story in which she claimed that the actor had knocked down a pedestrian with his customized vehicle and sped off. Well, despite using a fake name, Candy, she was found by the police after a report was made and she was arrested. Listen to the blogger herself.
I visited the Peace FM premises on Monday. While I wait at the first floor, Lewin came and the receptionist asked Lewin that somebody had lodged a complaint that he has knocked him down. I overheard just this conversation. I don't know what car was it. I don't know what time it was. I don't know where it happened. But since I'm a blogger, I thought maybe I could make something out of it. I wrote an article. No, I don't even know who the person was, and I didn't speak to anybody. I don't know whether it was true or not.
Okay, so that's the blogger herself speaking to us earlier this week. Listen to the Tesano police commander.
She has videoed him and then put it on the media that he has just knocked someone with his car and he has run away without stopping. So that was it. We brought them and then we took statement from Lewin and then as a complainant, and then the lady also, we cautioned her. And later she said she was sorry for what she did and it wasn't intention. Lewin is her fan.
So that's the Tesano police commander. Well, JoyFM has been a victim of fake news. I don't know about you. In fact, a whole website has recently been created by some faceless individuals using the name JoyNewsroom.com. And they are churning out complete falsehood. And they are benefiting because their name is so familiar. You hear JoyNewsroom.com and you think it may be a legitimate news portal put up by JoyFM or multimedia. And people read that and they think this must be authentic, only for you to check and realize it's completely false information that has been put out there. Well, Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah last week told Parliament he was open to legislation against fake news. He drew from the example of Kenya, where the Parliament recently passed a tough law against fake news.
I share the view that we should begin to legislate against false news on social media. I share that view.
What kind of legislation would you advocate for? Will it also be cyber security related as in Kenya?
Yes.
Or you want to punish unethical behavior with abuse of the cyber space? Give us a commitment.
Today, there are laws to deal with defamatory conduct and publishing false news in the general space. The fake news that we are talking about is often in the cyberspace. And I am very, very attracted to the thought of considering how we can legislate against the sharing of fake news in the cyberspace as part of the cybersecurity risks that we must look at and contain. I'm very open to that proposal.
So that's Kojo Nkrumah there, speaking in Parliament, open to a legislation that will crack down on fake news. Well, and you heard there where the minority leader asked the question whether we will draw from the Kenya example. In Kenya, Kenya's anti-fake news law, a guilty blogger or publisher could be fined as much as $50,000. That is in Kenya, under the law that was passed recently, I think in May. $50,000. And you can't be jailed for up to 2 years if you publish fake news. So tonight, should Ghana follow the example of Kenya in passing a tough law that imposes hefty fines and imprisonment on publishers of fake news? Well, that's a question that my guest will be answering here on the show. Well, connected on the phone is the woman herself. She was arrested this week for posting that fake news that triggered this conversation. She's a blogger. Ohemaa Candy connects on the phone. Hello, Ohemaa.
Hi.
Good. Thanks for connecting on the phone. Also in the studio with me, tonight, connecting is Efo Dela. He's the president of Blogging Ghana. What does Blogging Ghana do, by the way?
Blogging Ghana is an association of bloggers. It's not a binding association like the
The
journalists and
the
organizations,
GJ and
yes.
the others. Okay.
It's mostly of enthusiasts. It's not a for-profit organization, so it's more like people of similar interests coming together to discuss ideas and things like that.
Interesting. We'll hear his thoughts on this. Joseph Quay, we'll call him JQ for short. Is it JQ the guy who did the instrumentals? No. Okay, no, I'm just joking. Cybersecurity analyst, E-Crime Bureau. We'll connect to Kenya shortly, and in fact, on the line with us is James Smart from Kenya. Hello, James. Hello, James.
Yeah.
Great. Hi, James. Thanks for connecting. Where in Kenya are you connecting from?
Hello.
I'm in Nairobi.
Nairobi. Thank you very much, James.
Yes.
And in the studio, another Kenyan will join us very shortly in the studio. Collins Laurie is he from Kenya as well, the head of operations at Tech Innovation Center, IHAB Africa. They have a fascinating law that has been the talk of town in the last few months. Kojo Boateng, senior lecturer at GIJ, will also join us. Dr. Kyle Moody, assistant professor in communications media with specialties in professional communication, social media. We'll connect live from the U.S. as well. Remember that it's sort of the epicenter of all this fake news thing. Remember Trump making that phrase "fake news" very popular in the lead up to the 2016 campaign, and so there's a lot of conversation and research in the U.S. that maybe Ghana could benefit from. Samson Lada, his lawyer, will also connect on the phone. I want to start from with Ohemaa, who connects on the phone. Ohemaa, so should I call you Candy or Ohemaa, because I see your blog and I see the name there is Candy, correct? Hello, Ohemaa.
Hi.
I call you Ohemaa or Candy. I'm just checking your blog, and I think you use the handle Candy.
Yeah, Candy.
Okay, so yeah, Candy. So tell me, why did you publish this false information about Lil Wayne when you knew it was false?
Well, I didn't know it was false because I heard it from his mouth, the horse's own mouth. But what I was supposed to do was to confirm, find out if it was true or not. Since it was coming from the horse's own mouth, I thought, then it was true. That's why I published it.
But from what you told us earlier, you had gone to Peace FM and you had somebody asking him a question. Is that what happened?
Yes, that's what happened. We were all at the reception and she was talking. He was in an argument. He was in a conversation with the receptionist. And I was right there. So he was kind of explaining to me and everybody that was around. That he was trying to park his car and he saw this old man. And the old man came closer to him, told him he had, knocked him down. And Lil Wayne was like, oh, no, I didn't knock you down. I didn't even see you around. So the only thing he saw is the old man. And he said people actually does that a lot to him, to extort money from him all the time. It's not his first time of seeing something like that. That's how he explained. Okay, and then you published the story on your website, and the story was breaking.
Yes. Lil Wayne knocks down, runs over this person. That was a complete fabrication.
Yeah, as an up and coming blogger, I thought I could do a catchy title that would attract readers. That's why I made it and I thought at that time that for now I have learned a lot from this lesson that I went through. But then I thought I could make a catchy title that people would it will attract readers who would click the article and read more, and when they read the content, they will know the real truth. That was what I thought at that time.
So you were arrested?
Yes, I was arrested.
And I saw the pictures. You were in handcuffs. Were you put behind bars?
Yes, I was put behind bars for one night.
Oh, so you spent a whole night behind bars?
Yes, please.
So what were you charged with?
False publication.
You were charged with false publication?
Yes.
Are they going to arraign you before court?
For now, no. I have no idea because today we were supposed to meet and finalize issues, but the one didn't show up. So I don't know for now.
So what did you do next? Did you apologize to Lil Wayne? Because I've seen...
Yes, I apologized even in the video, the first video that broke out, that went viral. I apologized in it, and later I apologized as well to Lil Wayne and to everybody.
So your only motivation was you wanted people to read the thing and come to your site, and you thought the headline and everything you wrote there, would attract people.
Yes, exactly.
But did you get that though? Did people read? How many people read that story?
Oh, I can't disclose that story.
I mean, but was it a sizable amount of people?
I can't disclose it.
I mean, don't give me exact numbers, but did many people read it?
I still can't disclose it.
Well, I know I read it. I read it because I was interested in this conversation. Have you pulled down the story?
Yes, I have. I have actually redirected it. I have pulled down the story and I have redirected it to an apology article that I wrote about him, to him.
So tell me, what your blog? Do you get money from it? Do you get advertisement? What is it? What is it that motivates you to keep up putting out fake news?
I love doing it. I just love blogging. I don't really look at the money aspect of it, but it's like my life. When I get tired and I'm stressed out, that's what I do to feel better. So I don't really look at the money side, but I would say, yeah, there's money in it, but that's not what I care for. I just love to do what I do.
But you know that destroys people's lives. I mean, because that story was so damaging. I mean, this is a very famous guy, and you're destroying people's lives with this.
Well, I didn't think I was trying to destroy him. I didn't think about that.
Okay, can you just stay on the line for me? Let's expand this conversation. Della, you are a blogger. In fact, you are the president of the blog. Do you know Candy at all?
Not personally, but I've heard of her during this period because of her troubles.
You've heard her story.
Yes, I've heard it.
You're a president of the blog in Ghana. What's your reaction to what she says?
So it's not very, very surprising, and this is not the first time things like that have happened. And she's not the first person to do something that has gotten her in trouble on the internet or to benefit from a misleading headline. We see more of it these days with people have very short attention span. So you want to get people's attention to read an article, so you put a very, very catchy headline. I remember I blogged one famous news website in Ghana because I saw an article titled something like "Men's Outer Bill does something something something," and then I clicked the link, and then it was Men's Outer Bill in some town B somewhere, somebody who just coincided with Men's Outer Bill's name. And you know that because people consume information very, very fast these days, a lot of times they do not read the article. So you want to get their attention. A very catchy headline will either let them just conclude on the article by the headline or go into the article to read it. And by clicking on it, we call them clickbaits. The blogger gets more traffic, and if they have AdSense on their blog, then it means they are earning more money. So people are more motivated.
Pause for me. I want you to walk me through the monetization of this thing, or the way you explain. I don't understand all these technical terms you're using. How do you monetize what the likes of Candy is doing? Because I think that's where the problem is. Because if it's money there,
so there are different ways in which you can monetize your social media content or your blogging content. And let me use a very famous example. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk recently got fined $42 million by the SEC in the US. The reason why he got fined was because he posted a tweet that said he was taking Tesla private. And during the time the tweet was online, Tesla stock went very high and his personal net worth went very high because people are monitoring his tweets and monitoring his feed. And people started buying stock, and it turned out to be not exactly true. So he got fined $42 million. He said that the fine was worth it. So obviously what he earned from putting that news there
was more than what
he paid for. And like AdSense works in such a way that if you have an ad on your blog and somebody comes to the blog, the more people that come to your blog, the more likely they are to click on an ad. For example, sometimes you go on your Facebook site and then maybe you see something about a shoe that you see.
Yeah, it just popped up. I saw I'm just wondering.
And then you want to click because the shoe looks nice. Yeah. So anytime you click on the ad, the person whose page it shows up on
will get money.
Gets money, or the person who posts the ad gets money. So you are more tempted to put more ads there, because of course not everybody will click the ad, but the more people that come to your site, the more like you are increasing the chance of people clicking onto the ad, and that gives you the motivation to put out a catchy title that will, if I put a title on my blog that says bread has bread has more yeast, like nobody is going to click on it because it's not a catchy title. So you are going to put something. But
if you say Lil Wayne has knocked down and run over somebody and went away,
if you put a story there that Lil Wayne, and then somebody clicks on the link and they say that a Kaswa guy nicknamed Lil Wayne, you are already there. You are already there. You'll be upset.
I mean, I'm laughing, but it's a serious conversation.
You'll be upset that you got there and it was not the Lil Wayne you thought, even though you don't want anything bad to happen to Lil Wayne, but you'll be upset that you got there and you saw, but you've already clicked it.
And from what Candy says, this was very deliberate. She said, and she's on the line, and so that's what she said. I did deliberately because I wanted eyeballs, right? Yes. I wanted people to look at my thing. And you don't do that.
No, the kind of things that I blog doesn't allow me.
What do you blog?
I blog literature, poetry, and then I have a satirical.
Do you make money from that?
No, I don't. I have a job that I do on the side, so blogging is just a hobby. But then you have to understand that oftentimes the people who put out misleading articles are not being malicious to the person they are putting the article about. They are thinking about themselves at the moment, and they are not being like, they don't have any. They might not have. Of course, some people might have something against the person, but most often they do not think that the person who they are writing about is ever going to hear about it to the point that the person is going to take
but I mean,
action.
come on. I mean, let me expand the conversation further. Let me bring in. I just also been connecting in the studio right now by, of course, Laurie, who is from Kenya, knows a lot about this because Kenya has taken the lead on the continent in cracking down on this with proper legislation. I want to also. There's a colleague of yours in Kenya who's also on the line with us, James. Hello, James Smart.
Hi.
James, thanks for connecting.
Yeah.
You tell me, James, in May, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a law that was passed in Kenya, very harsh law by the parliament.
Right.
Tell us about this law. What was it supposed to do?
Right. So, obviously, the situation you're dealing with that I've listened to in Ghana is pretty much the same situation that we are trying to deal with, or the world is facing. You have people who are now publishers, everyone is a broadcaster, and everyone can be able to say anything at the comfort of their homes and that sort of thing. And that obviously creates certain problems because basically the problem of, I don't like calling fake news, I think it's misinformation and disinformation. I think the problem is verification. It's the fact that you are able to say something without really following the due diligence of calling the other parties and confirming if this incident really happened, or whatever you're saying, is it qualified as just a statement, as a personal statement, or something that is actually a fact. So the law that was concocted and put together here, in many ways, just tried to deal with something that was very, at that particular point, a political problem, which is that one person could say something that could inflame political passion. For instance, someone could say certain people have been killed in Region A and put pictures on their blogs. Now, by the time, someone comes back and verifies that actually incident never happened, or the people that you claim to have been killed or arrested were never arrested, or that sort of thing, it could have a counter effect on the other side. So in that sense, then the Kenyan government and the Kenyan legislators thought that it was wise for them to come up with a law that would trace up to the first point of who actually was the first person to come up with this story. So they put stringent measures on WhatsApp administrators, that they are responsible for the information that goes through their sites and that sort of thing. So if fake news originates from your site, the government is able to listen in and see in, and they're able to find someone who's responsible for that.
And from what I read, if you publish fake news, you're liable to pay a fine up to $50,000 and imprison up to 2 years.
It's very punitive, you're right. There's cost implications for that, because the argument is that if people can just be able to be allowed to publish whatever and whenever without them having taken a responsibility, that they can be jailed and they can pay a fine, sort of like a libel thing, then no one will take responsibility. So that is one side on how the country has decided to fight this.
Okay, just a line for me. JQ, you went to cybercrime, but also you understand how these things work. Like the fundamental question, should Ghana follow the Kenya example? At least listening to what Candy has said quite openly and honestly about what she does.
In relation to Candy, what the law says is true. It's not a Candy issue. It's a situation where the internet has created this opportunity, and also, the disadvantage that comes with it. You can sit behind a machine and then register a website and then start posting anything. In relation to Candy's case, the website was just started in January. She actually registered the domain in January, and since January she's been posting stories. So anyone can do that. In relation to this particular situation, as to which one model we should follow, I think it will do us best to consider a lot of the models, okay? Because even with the laws, okay, choosing to go as a country following the laws, well, people are also complaining, because France is also doing the same. And people are complaining that, well, it may get to a point where the state may start, using it to stifle people's freedom and choose to, you can't say this.
Lawyer, I see you nodding. I'll come to you shortly. You agree because you've had the Kenyan experience, so you know what this is.
Just going with selecting laws, I don't think it's just about that. I think we need to consider all the models. India, who have been a victim of some of these fake news that have resulted in death.
True.
People have died.
True.
Because of fake news. Are also tackling it in a lot of ways. The laws is part, but they are also starting to educate, their children. They are educating the younger generation that are coming up about how to spot some of these fake news. They are educating their media. So I think the solutions are diverse, and the best Ghana can do is to take all of them in and consider which ones work. If you're going to adapt all of them, fine. But I don't think it's a matter of, it's a matter of just laws, we should just subscribe to it, because people have critiqued also some aspect of the law. So let's consider the bigger picture, the solutions that are brought on board.
Right, yeah. I just want to look at the substance of the law in Kenya. And first of all, we have to know that it's been suspended by the court.
Okay.
It is not being implemented. This law, which is called Cyber Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Act, which was signed in May of this year, of course, it's wide. Like they say, the devil is in the details. The law covers aspects of pornography, it covers aspects of misuse, financial misuse, all those aspects to do with the cyber world and cyber crimes. But there is that bit of false news. Of all things you might see, no one will disagree with those other aspects. They're all things we agree on.
Okay.
But when you introduce the element of false news, then we have a problem. Because then you arrogate a particular authority the right to determine what is the truth. And if you give an authority the right to determine what the truth is, then that is where we have problems. That is where arbitrary arrests will begin, because then the holders of
But
the
somebody
truth,
must determine that.
But if you allow that to be the state in power, it will look at the truth
So
from its own
who should be?
prism.
Who should then?
Oh, okay. Maybe we could take it in stages and see how the Kenyan law has evolved to the point that it has been stopped.
Okay.
Immediately once the law the bill was brought to Parliament, Committee to Protect Journalists called on the president in Kenya to not to sign the law, not to sign the bill into law, because it had a fundamental flaw in the sense that it allowed the state the power to determine what the truth was. But of course, it was signed nonetheless. And then the second procedure kicked in. The law has been signed. It was taken to court. Becca, the organization that brings together all the bloggers in Kenya, got orders from court suspending the law in its entirety, because of that single thing of determining who holds the key to the truth.
I get that point, but I'm saying, in the case of the lady here, when she published a story, somebody filed a report to the police, and the police acted, arrested, and as she's saying, she was charged with false publication. Somebody must make a determination that falsehood has been published and trigger the necessary legal processes to remedy it. Somebody has to.
That's true.
In Kenya, have you resolved that?
That issue is yet to be resolved, because this law has been suspended on account of that until it is determined that at what threshold do you agree that this is false and this is true. If we have a reasonable threshold, let me give you an example. If, for example, somebody has inadvertently published the passing or the death of someone.
I like the inadvertently.
Yeah,
it happened in Ghana. We have GBC, I think, that published a fake news story that I think was, is it Thabo Mbeki had died, right? Yes. I mean, it went viral, and it turns out that was fake news, right?
Well, fake news. Well, if it's deliberate, then it's fake news. If it's deliberate with the intention that is meant to, confuse the public or to make the public get fearful or something, that is definitely fake news. But where someone has made
a genuine mistake, okay,
and that is where we need to establish where is that threshold. At what point does one say, well, that was a mistake? And at what point does one say, oh, clearly that wasn't a mistake? That was deliberately. That was a clickbait. You meant to click people to click this to get money out of them.
Yeah, these are very interesting perspectives. Let me go back to, and I know you had something to say. I'll come to shortly. Candy. Hello, Candy. Hello, Candy. Candy, can you hear me? Yes, great.
Yeah,
so, Candy, so tell me. So, after all this, have you changed? Is this something that you're gonna? Are we going to see something different about what you blog about and how you do it?
Well, it's not like I do fake news all the time. And with Lewin's case, it wasn't really fake, something I fabricated, even though the title, it's just the title that was harsh. But I just...
It's just the title that was harsh? I mean, the guy didn't knock anybody down. He didn't run away. His car wasn't there. There was nothing about that story that was true.
No, I mean, I'm saying that the title was harsh, but hearing it from Lewin, at that time, I didn't know it was true or it was false. And if it was not true, why would Lewin talk about it? My
question is, so you've been arrested, you've been charged, you've been bailed. Okay. Is something going to change about your blog?
Yes, I am not going to let that mistake repeat itself again. I am really going to work hard in confirming news before I write them.
Now, there is, we've had the information minister say this week that he is open to a law, that he is open to passing a law that will deal with fake news such as you publish about Lewin. And are you in favor of that?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that because I have learned a lot from Lewin's issue, and I would advise my fellow bloggers to also desist from fake news or not confirming news before they write their articles.
Okay, a good citizen there. Thank you very much, Candy. Candy connected with us, and her story is a fascinating one. You've heard her admit that she did this because she wanted the likes, she wanted the attention for her blog, but she landed her into trouble. Now, this is a problem with fake news. I was reading research done by MIT researchers and examined 126,000 rumors spread by 3 million people and found that false news reached more people than the truth. In fact, it says, quote, analysis found that it took the truth approximately 6 times as long as falsehood to reach 1,500 people. Bottom line, fake news travels faster than the truth. Dela, discuss.
That is because usually fake news is very sensational, and most of us, our lives are boring, and we want to entertain ourselves. And so when we hear stories about fake news, like Lil Wayne has knocked down somebody, when you hear something like that, it's like, whoa, Lil Wayne knocked down someone and we didn't hear it, and then like this gives you something to gossip with your friends about. And in cybersecurity, there's something called the theory of transition of spaces. Basically, there are things people want to do in real life that they do not have the opportunity to do, but when they go onto the internet, with the anonymity that comes there and with the freedom that comes there, they are able to do those things that they are not able to do in real life. So basically, she said she heard Lil Wayne discussing this story. She has this story that she wants to discuss with people, and she's not getting a lot of people to do it. But the internet affords you this freedom and this large audience who are willing to listen to your story. So you put it out there and a lot of people come and engage. When you go to, I think it's Ghana Web or something like that, is the people don't even actually read the story. If you go to the comment section, that's where all the fun is. The people are there gossiping with people they don't know in real life. And that's how like fake news is. It generates this set of this sort of incredulous conversation that you cannot believe, like the kind of information that when you wake up in the morning, people have forwarded to you on WhatsApp that you know is not, it's like it can't be real. Like 12 o'clock, all phones are going to blast, but the speed at which it is going. But when you tell people that we should go and vote on 7th December, like the speed, like it's boring. Like if phones are going to blast at 12 o'clock, that is more exciting than going to stand in a queue on 7th December to vote. So like false news is usually very sensational, and people, as we want to be entertained, and we might try, and we might like to give out some sort of fake outrage. I can't believe that Lil Wayne knocked out somebody, but the excitement is there to discuss it, and that's what causes these things to.
JQ.
Well, in relation to that, as to why I expressed that quickly, I mean, I think Della has, basically.
But he makes a point about that comes to the fundamental question I've had for you. How do you identify fake news? But there's a fascinating thing emerging from what we're hearing from Laurie in Kenya about who determines what fake news is, what is fake news and what isn't. Adela, you have something to say on that?
So I wanted to say what determines fake news can be fake news until it is no longer fake news.
What do you mean by that?
For example, when the story of Bill Clinton came out that he was having an affair whilst in power.
Yeah,
that was he denied it for a long time, and lots of people stood beside him, and it was considered fake news until one day they realized it was not fake news.
No, that's not how. At that time, that was pure. And one of the things we're discussing shortly is the difference between what bloggers do and what journalists do. At that time, it was pure journalistic work that had done research and background checking and published the story.
You see, that's what Clinton denied. Right now, we've been able to confirm it. If Clinton had continuously denied it, and he had never come out to confirm that this happened, because his party was in power, the journalists would have been discredited because there would be no evidence. But you see, at some point in time, the evidence came out. Now, governments have a very bad history of controlling speech, so we shouldn't give the government the ability to control speech, as he said.
But you raise
who should control it.
But you raise a point that I think we should get into, and Laurie, I want you on this one, because the point you raise is fundamental. That listen to Trump. Each time the Washington Post, the New York Times will come up with a story and say X appointee in White House is going to be sacked in the next week, he comes and says fake news. It shouts fake news for a week. 2 weeks tops, the guy is gone.
Yes.
And you saying that at the time that the Washington Post published a story, it's fake news because what? It hasn't happened.
That's what I'm saying. That
because there must be a distinction. And where do you draw the line between the work that journalists do, that sometimes comes out and the politicians deny, that sometimes eventually checks out, and what a blogger like Candy does, which is unverified information. She is at the reception area, hear people gossiping and talking, takes the gossip, and writes a story about it. What do you? Let me hear you, JQ.
Good. I think in your presentation you've made it a bit clear. It's the method of which you arrive at whatever it is you publish. You see, because if you are following the U.S. and what's happening in the U.S. right now, someone also did this similar thing, whereby Robert Mueller, right? The person was about to actually claim from his entire company that he was involved in a particular sexual offense. And I think it was later proved that it wasn't true, the entire company was fake and all of that. I think it's the process people arrive at the information. So in a situation whereby, and that leads me to how you verify sometimes fake news from the real and stuff.
Okay.
In a situation like, Candy's, when I first heard about it, I went to her site. Okay, I went to her site. The first thing I did was to check even about the site. It's like in the normal human sense, how you verify someone is telling you the truth. Okay, this person tells me this. Who is he?
Okay.
You see, and what history does he have with telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
In the similar space, in the cyberspace, it's the same thing. Who is this website, and what is their history with telling the truth?
Okay.
And I go to Candice's website, and I find out, okay, well, first and foremost, Candice has been in existence since January. Okay, that is a very short span to be distributing news. Let me go through the articles that are on her page. I see some few, stories that she has pulled from other websites. And then I also see stories that are very upset. I wish you could ask her. There's a story that she's talked about. Lil Wayne, this is not the first time she talked about her. Talk about him. He says, Kweku Menu, another Ghanaian actor, says Lil Wayne has gone to his juju man to kill him. It's on her side.
Site.
So you see, when I'm seeing a lot,
and you see that story with your background, and you clearly think this is fake.
When I'm seeing that story, I'm building a profile on the person, okay, and the character of whoever is distributing that story. And if I see enough red flags, okay, then it tells me that you have an integrity issue.
So what you're saying is one of the best ways to identify fake news is try and just don't take the headline. Go to the originating website and ask yourself who is behind this story.
The source of the news.
If there's no name that you can, for example, she says she uses Candy. I mean, that should alert you.
Who's Candy?
Okay, because if I write a story on my journal, my name will be there, or you see the full name.
Exactly. So you see, at the end of the day, I'm not saying that is supposed to be the golden rule.
That's just one thing to look for.
I am more interested in processes to establish the integrity,
the method
of the person,
arriving at
the source of the information, the integrity of the source of the information. Okay, and there are several processes. What I've mentioned is just a few of them.
Okay,
but to measure the integrity of the person is one of the best determinants.
Okay, well, what else is there? Help us.
I want to say something
because I want to hear. I haven't heard briefly, so I can.
You see, he is a cybersecurity expert. I have some knowledge in blogging, and all of us here have a certain level of understanding of information. So this might not convince us. However, on the internet, information moves at a very fast pace. What is news right now is not news in the next 1 hour. Information's life is so fast that people do not have time to go and verify these things. And that is what people on the internet depend on, because they know that when something goes viral, the lifespan of something that is viral on the internet is very, very short.
Okay.
You and I can't even remember news that happened last week, because there has been so much information. We are in a time in which there is so much information, and that is what people on the internet thrive on. That you would forget.
Just a second, gentlemen. I need to connect again to the Fitchburg State University in the U.S. Lawyer, I'll come to you. I know you have a lot to say. Let's connect to Dr. Kyle Moody, expert in fake news, has been studying this for years. In fact, teaches on this at the Fitchburg State University. Hello, Kyle. Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you very much for connecting. You're live on Joy. Tell me, my fundamental question to you, and I think that's where we were, making the distinction between, I guess, the journalists, the bloggers, and the line between fake news and real news.
So the big line between journalists and bloggers is that journalists go through professional certification and often go through particular training, whereas bloggers can just simply access tool sets provided through the internet and create content, or what we would call user-generated content. So that's the difference, is professionalism and professional certification and experience. The line between real news and fake news comes in the form of what information is presented as truth, what information that is verifiably false, and there's also an economic incentive to produce fake news as well, particularly in an era where advertising revenue is determined by clicks on a site. So there is economic incentive to produce this.
And a friend of ours who's listened to the show, Kojo Asante, CDD, asking, do they have the same injunctions to report fairly? And I ask that question because we cannot hold them to the same standards we hold a professionally trained journalist who works in the mainstream media. And so why do we complain so much when they churn out all these fake news? After all, we don't expect them to churn out accurate information because they are not trained journalists. Fair question?
It is a fair question, but the reason that people are complaining is largely because there is a marked impact on society with fake news, as we have seen with the circulation of untrue information and its ability to impact people in terms of policy decisions, its ability to impact people in terms of voting and democratic actions that are taken. So there is a reason why people are complaining about fake news, and it's largely because of the way that this information and people who circulate it have an impact on society and culture.
How is the U.S. dealing with this? And I say this, like the U.S. has almost become the epicenter of this and played out quite forcefully in the lead up to the 2016 elections. Donald Trump popularized the phrase fake news. How has it been handled in the States?
when I teach this topic at my university, often students are bereft of actually knowing how this has impacted them because the effect has been almost wholly invisible unless you're paying attention to it. The reality is that it is a subtle invasion that has changed the way that we consume news and information, and it has drastically impacted policy in a number of ways, particularly on low information voters. So decrying fake news, as certain politicians are wont to do, has also impacted the veracity of the news organizations in the minds of specific voters.
Now, we have just been drawing on there's an example in Kenya where they've passed a law dealing with false information, fake news very specifically. Here, locally in Ghana, the information minister had said recently to parliamentarians that he's open to legislation that will tackle fake news as it manifests online in the cyber world. Is there talk in the U.S. about legislation to deal with this?
Not at all, due to its protection underneath our First Amendment of the United States Constitution. However, there has been there are libel laws and there are laws that protect legitimate news organizations from being called out as fake or any such thing. In our case, we are looking at tech companies such as Facebook and Google being charged with how they handle and aggregate information, since both of these regulate information to a greater population. And so that's where our focus has largely been, on the distributors of fake news.
If you're asked to opine on whether or not a state should use legislation to deal with fake news, what would you say? What would your advice or what would your opinion be?
I believe that a state should not become involved in this process. I believe that no government entity should become involved with this process due to the existing laws that we currently have on here. But I do believe that several of our technology organizations should be examined and called out for their role in distributing false and oftentimes malicious misinformation.
Kyle, thank you very much. And Kyle is a lecturer. Dr. Kyle is a lecturer with the Pittsburgh University. They're speaking to us about his area of interest. Laurie.
Yeah. Okay, it's been very good what's been discussed so far. I just want to point out two things: regulation and self-regulation. Mm-hmm. Government and self-control. Models: Kenya, Tanzania. Tanzania has called for the registration of all bloggers, so that if you're a blogger, you're known. This is so and so. Okay. You write anything fake, we put you in, or whatever we do, whatever it is that we're supposed to do, you according to the law. On the other hand, in Kenya, they have not done that. They have not asked the bloggers to register. The bloggers have gone on their own and formed an association. Some of these people have up to 300, 400,000 followers.
I see.
Some up to 1 million.
How many followers do you have? Della?
About 20,000 followers.
Oh, Christ.
So
yes.
When someone has 1 million followers, it is very easy for whatever he or she says to be mainstreamed.
True.
Even when it has something that is fake about it.
Yeah.
So these people have come together under an association called BAKE, Bloggers Association of Kenya. Then they would now like to introduce the next step, which is how do we regulate ourselves so that we do not, because there are people who blog specifically on matters of education. And that is something very sensitive to parents, because children are going to school and they need to know exactly what is being talked about. So those are some of the things that are happening at the moment. BAKE is trying its best to try and bring... I'm trying to play devil's advocate here, because the bloggers are the ones who are on the receiving end. During the passage of that bill in Parliament, the majority leader in Kenya said, this bill, he said three things. This bill will control issues of pornography, it will control issues of financial crimes and cyber world, and then he said, bloggers, you are on notice. You have to behave like the other normal people. What did he mean by that? He simply meant you might have to toe a particular line. That's why I'm saying state control or state sanctioning of operations in the cyber world are not very, very useful. They're not friendly at all. Because they will even control the way you think. Because then they say, bloggers, you're on notice. You should behave the way the others do. So that means something.
Yeah, it could also mean bloggers behave like professional journalists do. Check your information.
Bloggers are now trying to put themselves together because they know they have a lot of power. If you have 1 million people behind you, and you keep saying fake things, then you know what you're capable of.
I asked Dr. Moody, who joined us from the US, whether it's fair to expect bloggers to behave like us because they are not trained. And do you invest in that, Dela?
Yes, we do. At our meetings and our events, we do talk about things like that. But as I said, not every blogger in Ghana is a member of Blogging Ghana.
Yeah. So you might not.
Yes, we want every blogger in Ghana to be a member of Blogging Ghana.
But you can't compel anybody to be
that. Yeah. It's not like the Journalist Association where you have to train. The internet is
not every journalist is a member of GJA, by the way,
the majority of them are. But the internet is this great freedom
Frankenstein monster.
Yes, anybody can sign up to with anonymity.
Just a second, Dela. Let me quickly wrap up with James, who's still online from Kenya. James, so how is Kenya? Well, I guess a fundamental question for me is, in our parliament, the information minister was vetted recently. He was asked a question whether in pushing for legislation to deal with fake news, will he draw on the Kenyan experience? And he says, yeah, I mean, they'll look at it. Would you, based on all the experience you've shared with us, should Ghana go the same way, or what amendments could we introduce if we want to go this route? Hello, James.
Hi.
Yes. I don't know if you heard my question.
All right. Yeah. I've heard your question. I didn't realize that to me. I think that there's fundamental problems with obviously trying to legislate the truth. There's you get into problems because it can be used for political reasons. It can be used to socially constrict people to develop. It introduces so many problems. The best way that I think that is working out right now is to make sure that we differentiate between the journalism and blogging. That's because not all journalism is blogging and not blogging is journalism per se. And I think that's a fundamental question.
And Dr. Moody from the US helped us with the distinctions. And so I think that's pretty clear. But it's a very important distinction that has to be made, even in the legislation that is being contemplated. I'm sure you're arguing.
Yes. So I think the most fundamental thing, I think, is always the best editor and the best restriction comes from an industry that has grown. So in our experience, I think Ghanaians and Ghanaian blogging and the journalism industry has to grow enough so that it's able to look at itself, it manage itself, so that you allow the social construction of the people, politically, socially, economically, to be something organic. Obviously, there are people who are going to stray, and that is why you have libel laws, that's why you have penal code laws and that sort of thing, which help to bring and sort out these matters legally as and when they happen. Unfortunately, I think that use a heavy hand, that's a sweeping hand that wants to legislate everything. As our experience has shown, it really doesn't help so much as introduce other problems, which is restricting an industry and make it difficult for people, and it can be used in different ways. We've had it in versions of it in security laws before. We've had versions of it in people trying to come up with information laws and that sort of thing. Essentially, my take home is the best way to go around it is to figure out ways on how to build the capacity of the people who are in the blogging industry, who are the creme de la creme right now, to start introducing standards, industry standards, that are going to help the young ones to come in and help this industry to grow, as opposed to using sort of legislation to deal with this problem.
I'm grateful, James Smart, connecting from Nairobi. Samson Lada Yenini is lawyer, connecting on the phone. Samson, your thoughts on this? Do we need legislation to deal with this problem?
Well, what a massive rollback of the democratic gains that we have made over the period, particularly in the media industry and press freedom. If what is being said, the reportage about the minister's consideration is true, then I'll say that he needs to rethink and get sufficient consultation on this matter, because his government is the government that repealed criminal libel. And to even contemplate bringing back, that's what it will be. It will be like bringing back criminal libel fake news is simply false information that is churned out. We have libel laws. We have a civil remedies that are available. People can resort to civil remedies. We are currently actually fighting for Section 2.8 of the Criminal Offences Act to be repealed, and that is when you deal with false information about rumors or publications or reproducing statements that are false and are likely to cause fear and alarm in the public.
But Samson, to be fair to Mr. Ponkrumah, he was specific that something that will deal with the cyber realm, the blogosphere, so to speak. We don't have any law in our books that deals specifically with that realm, because I guess when the laws were being passed then, I mean, we didn't have social media the way we have it now. Don't you think we need something that specific?
Well, we need something, but in the nature of civil remedies and civil legislation, and not criminalizing anything. Look, so that's really the point. And the lady, when she was picked up, I heard her, and she said she was charged with publishing false news. I'm sorry, I don't know. She should go back to that police station and tell them to their face that there is no such crime in our criminal statutes. There is no such crime. In fact, from the narration that she gives about what happened, there is no any criminal offense that can be slapped on her to put her before court. So I'm surprised. If we do some of these things, we'll encourage things that will take us far back. So please, let's not even contemplate it.
Yeah, and she spent 24 hours behind police bars for what she did.
I didn't hear that.
She spent 24 hours behind police bars for what she did.
Yes, completely wrong. Because if one has not committed a crime, you don't first of all arrest. If you are arresting them, you must tell them the offense for which they are being arrested. And there was no offense for which she was being arrested. Okay? This is so going on in this country. Some police stations are acting as if we're still in the dark age, and that the things they do will not come to public. You know, it's terrible. It's terrible. Look, I teach journalists, I conduct training, and I say, just stay away from doing the things that will get you sued in court for libel. It is all about dealing with false information. That's all fake news is about. And there is a regime available now to use to deal with it. It should not be a criminal regime. It should remain a civil remedy.
I'm grateful, Samson. Let me take brief comments from my colleagues, my friends in the studio. Let me start with you, JQ. So, JQ, I think even here we agree that the legislation necessarily isn't the way to go. I think you believe self-regulation is. I think, Laurie, you believe self-regulation. But I think there's also agreement that something needs to be done about this. James from Kenya says the best way is to equip the bloggers with what to do. What would you suggest is the way out of this?
Okay, so like I said, that's what I'm saying, that we need to consider a lot of models countries have.
Yeah, what model would you propose?
Yes, education is also part. Okay. Like India is educating the young children and people in school about how to detect some of these things. They are educating the journalists. So I agree with that particular model. But one thing I also suggest is that, you see, they are in this same blogging sphere, right? There are websites that actually verify some fake news. Okay, there's Snopes.com, there's Hoaxlayer. I'm expecting, us to jump on this. I'm expecting JoyNews to actually have a website, fakenewsdetector.com. Okay, whereby
that's why we have fact checking that we do every Wednesday.
That's excellent. So something like that, I would expect that a lot of us will jump on board. That at least the latest fake news that we are seeing around, we quickly verify it. At least to our listeners. This story going around on WhatsApp about someone mixing his HIV positive blood with the product, and it's going around on WhatsApp.
True.
And that if you, I mean something like this.
Yeah, and it spreads faster than the truth. Finally, in 30 seconds.
My final comment is that contrary to what you believe that there's a fine line between journalists and bloggers, there isn't.
Like, oh, really?
A lot of journalists have their personal blogs where they put their personal opinions. Manasseh has a blog that has a huge following, and he puts his personal opinion there. But
that's just Manasseh.
Yes, but Manasseh is a respected journalist, and people will not be able to tell.
He's a blogger journalist.
Yes, people will not be able to.
But they are bloggers.
Yes, but people will not be able to tell the difference. People will not be able to tell the difference between his personal opinions and his
that's true.
Professional. So that fine line that you think exists keeps on getting more and more blurred. We hope that there will come a time where we'll be able to control fake news. But as
you don't like legislation?
No.
Okay.
The Orwellian stories like 1984 show that.
Finally, Laurie, I think you've stated the point that let's use self-regulation. Right?
Yes.
But somebody must whip them to self-regulate.
Right, yeah. But I still insist that I think it is important that the bloggers come together in Ghana.
Yeah.
And when they come together, they're able to identify those who are not conforming to the various standards they will have agreed. And in the process, they'll be able to blacklist
some of them.
Yes. So if you have if you're a blogger and you have a site, there's a particular logo that is on your site
that shows that this is certified. You're a member of the association.
And therefore, so those who are not, you're reading at your own risk. And you
Absolutely.
take the fake news at your own risk.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right, people are talking on social media. Elvis in Kumasi says, for sanity to prevail on the internet, there should be laws to punish offenders. This one says, great show, Evans. Legislating is not the way to go. It will degenerate into something else. And this one says, I'm all for legislation. Too many bloggers causing problems for professional journalists. We are lumped together. And finally, this one says, I think...
Hey, I like that one. It caused a lot of trouble. Delaying your people.
This one says, I think it should be legislated, but the Kenyan...
And you know that thing,
you think
journalists standards are falling. Meanwhile, a lot of them, they're thinking some blogger they read online. They think, yes.
Yeah, the final one. It says, I think it should be legislated, but the Kenyan case is extreme. And Elvis comes back to say that in the case of who determines the authenticity of the news, it relies on who the news is about. In the case of Lil Wayne, he's the one to determine.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you all for connecting. Let's see if we make progress on this, as the Information Minister has indicated. Connect again next week. My name is Evans Mensah.